right, and we're live. So yeah, like I was saying right before we hit record, I've been scammed on the internet 2 times in the last month.
What does that mean?
I bought a bunch of gunpowder
Okay.
and paid through Zelle, and then come to find out that it was an internet scam. Like,
Oh, wow.
He wasn't even selling stuff. He just built a website, and I'll show you the website. It looks legit. So I don't feel terrible that I got scammed, but I shouldn't say I don't feel terrible. I don't feel stupid when I look at that website. Right. And here's the thing, and I've told the story on the podcast before, so if you're like, oh, I've already heard this, then turn your radio off. I don't care. When I tried to buy some firearm-related stuff over the past couple months with PayPal, it said, like, PayPal no longer supports the sale and transfer of any firearm-related products. If you use your PayPal for this purchase, you're at like, you may lose your PayPal. Which what does that even mean? Because I have like a bunch of money in my PayPal because all the podcast stuff comes in and out of it. Yeah. So I'm like, what do you mean you can lose it? I mean, they're going to take your money, you know? So then when I went to buy this gunpowder, it said, due to the problems with PayPal, we are now only accepting Zelle. And because I had an issue like a couple weeks earlier, that didn't raise any red flags. So then I bought through Zelle and bought like $550 worth of gunpowder. And then the second I sent it, I got some kind of like, you know, just intuitions like, man, something feels off.
Gut feeling.
Yeah. And so I called my bank and I was like, hey, can you cancel that? And they said, we can only cancel Zelle before it gets accepted by the other party. So they went in, and it was literally like in real time. I'm watching it on my phone. It's saying pending, accepted. Oh, man. And they're like, oh, it was just accepted. And it was transferred into a prepaid debit card. And the girl on the phone goes, when they're put into a prepaid debit card, you know you got scammed. Oh, wow. Because anybody that's doing legitimate business, it goes into some type of business account. Yeah. Like, you still can't get it back on Zelle. Once it's gone, it's gone. But you can see where it went to, and she's like, prepaid debit card, you got scammed.
Dude, it's crazy. Like the creativity of some of these scammers. So and it's getting really hard to sniff out.
It really is.
Because I'll get emails. I'm a contractor, and I'll get emails like, hey, sent over the contract for the fencing. Make sure you sign and return as soon as possible. And luckily, it's like a company that I've never heard of, right? So you kind of go, oh, yeah, I know what's going on here. But wow, they actually kind of searched out an industry, tailored a scam email for that industry, and sent it to somebody in that industry. So I'm like getting these contracts, like, hey, you gotta sign this thing. And luckily, I've been able to sniff them out, and I haven't clicked on any of it. But I'm like, kudos to those guys in some regard.
No, yeah. They're getting like exponentially better. Because remember, like the scams coming out of Nigeria a couple years ago used to be like, dear sir and ma'am, I have best product for you. You will like very much. And it was like, delete, you know?
You could tell.
And now it's like, I'll show you this website when we're done. And it's called, I think it's called Rockstone Ammo. Yeah. And they have a hard address out of Colorado.
And it's still live?
Oh, yeah. Like, I don't know what you could... Obviously, it's out of Africa or something somewhere, you know? But no, the whole thing's a scam. And then when I started looking into it and reading stories, everybody else is like, yep, it's fake. It's fake. It's fake. And then the most recent issue I've had, I bought some other parts for my rifle from a guy I've done business with before. And so it's like... because I've had business dealings with this guy and I was very happy with it, I wasn't concerned about using Zelle. You know, I was like, okay. Yeah. And Jenny is immediately like, oh, you're going to use Zelle again? You know, like, fuck. And,
fool me once, shame on me.
Yeah, I know. But I was like, no, I've already done business with this guy. So I bought some products for my rifles, and then it's been a month and they haven't been sent, you know? Oh. And I'm like, hey man, what's up with these? He's like, oh, I'm having some inventory issues. I'm like, no. Like, you said you had them. In fact, you sent me pictures of them. So what are we talking about? Oh, this, oh, that. And it's literally been a month of oh, this, oh, that. But on Zelle, here we are again. I have no course like of action I can take. And so I think moving forward, like, dude, you're getting paid with a credit card, period. And if you can't accept a credit card, then you don't, your business isn't up to standard, because I can sell a sticker out of my jiu-jitsu academy for $3 on a credit card, you know? And then you have that protection to be able to reverse the charge if you find out that you're getting scammed.
And I get it, man. Nobody wants to pay the 3% or whatever credit card fee. But at the same time, like, now you've got all the general public that's on to something, and they're like, if they're not going to accept a normal credit card, something's fishy.
Yeah. No, and this last transaction was $2,500. So I'm out $3,000 in Zelle.
Oh, wow.
In the last month, you know?
You just be like, hey, man, how about I just come and pick them up myself?
Well, trust me, I already got a lot of eyes on it.
Where is this place?
I know exactly where his fucking house is.
Oh.
So, but, you know, it's funny. I go back and forth on it, because as I grow into this, you know, like, and I'm sure we'll get into this, trying to grow into a better version of myself, a new person, my initial reaction was, all right, let's book a ticket and let's sit at the end of his driveway and knock every tooth out of his fucking head. And then I start to think like, well, part of this is on you too, because you didn't do your due diligence, and you just he reached out to me with, hey, I got this product available, and I sent him the money right away instead of making it some type of
doing some background.
Yeah. You know,
figuring out if it's legit.
And then sure enough, I did some more background check on him, and come to find out a lot of customers have been having problems with him lately. And so there's a part of me that's like, this is a lesson for you. Like, you're the one that's made the mistake. And sure, he may have been the catalyst to it, but use this as a learning experience instead of getting angry at him. Understand this is a $3,000 or $2,500 mistake.
Right.
And if he doesn't give your money back, that's on him.
Yeah.
Instead of allowing, because here's the thing, I was pissed about it.
Sure.
For like 3 days, I'm like, this motherfucker, dude. And I was filled with anger. And then one of my kids did something that was, I don't even remember what they did, but they did something that was out of line in the car. And I kind of snapped pretty hard at them. And Jenny's like, you're snapping at them because you're mad about the circumstance you're dealing with right now.
Oh, yeah.
And then it made me think, like, is losing $2,500 worth being angry for 3 days? Mm-hmm. Or treating members in your household differently, yelling at your kids? No, it's not.
Right.
And so I'm just I think I'm just at peace with it. Hey, if I get it back, cool. If I don't, also cool. Yeah. I learned.
That's the thing with pretty much any troubling situation, any trial, like there is always space to take ownership, I think. And a lot of these self-improvement guys you follow on social media, like ownership's a big thing. And I feel the same way. Like there's some stuff going on in my life right now where I'm upset about it, and I can totally play the victim. I could say, oh man, it sucks being, so I'm a contractor. It sucks being a contractor right now. I'm tired of the delays. I'm tired of subcontractors not showing up when they say they're going. You know what? Hold on. Instead of playing the victim right now, why don't I think of creative ways to get guys to commit to being on time? Mm-hmm. Why can't I figure out why can't I take ownership of the stuff instead of bitching about it? Let's figure out creative ways. Let's be solution minded instead of victim minded, and take ownership of some stuff. And there's some stuff that's legitimately like completely out of your control. You can't do a dang thing about, and you struggle through that ownership component, and it's like, okay, maybe I couldn't have done anything. But if you set off in the mindset like, oh me, oh my, I'm stuck because of this thing, instead of your default mechanism is, okay, what should I be doing right now to fix this? What can I do to take ownership of the problem, talk through it with the other people that are involved, find solutions, and make it happen?
Well, yeah, and if you approach each issue with that mindset, and you do have a lot of ownership, and you take the necessary steps to try and make sure that you either correct problems or prevent them from ever happening, then if something goes bad, you can say like, you have that peace of mind. Hey, I did my part and it still didn't work out. But I think a lot of people, in like the stories that I just told, I didn't do my due diligence.
Right.
I took some shortcuts. I took the easy path. And because of that, that's why I'm paying now.
Yeah.
And if you look at a situation like that, you have to say, okay, that's my bad, you know?
Yeah.
But I think like, I mean, that's probably, and we'll get into this, one of the reasons you're getting out of contracting.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can control in that space, right?
Yeah. I'm still at odds with myself a little bit on totally pinpointing what the root problem is. I think I'm getting there, but I'll be honest with you, Greg, I don't know if I'll ever figure out exactly like to a T what prompted such radical change in my life. But and we'll talk through like history and if you want and leading up to this point.
No, I want to talk about all this stuff because one thing that I find fascinating is people always talk about a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, he's like, you don't feel loved, and some men start looking for love in different areas. He's having a midlife crisis. Or you've been doing a job for 20 years and you need a change. It's a midlife crisis. And we attach this term that has like, let's face it, has negative connotations to it.
Yeah.
And if you hear a man or a woman, everybody can go through this, is having a midlife crisis, you think there's something wrong with him. There's a problem.
That's what crisis is, the definition.
That's right, you know? But what if you want to take a step back and like actually unpack what's going on? Maybe it's like a midlife growth.
Right.
Because we all are on this journey of life, and the American cookie cutter approach to life is like, hey, in your teens, you go to school. In your early 20s, you continue to go to some type of higher education or trade. And then you're in the workforce and you're a worker bee until you're 60. Then you're retired and you're out and you get to have fun. You get to buy a boat. And for people like us that want to break that mold, like there's nothing, I look at that lifestyle and I want no part of it. I don't want to be stuck in this revolving door for 30, 40 years and then go enjoy retirement until I die. Like that doesn't excite me. Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, they start to feel like, man, like my life has become Groundhog's Day. It's not fulfilling. I don't love what I'm doing anymore. So why should you keep doing it? And most people will tell you the why is your pension, your benefits. It's how you pay your mortgage and all of these things that allow people to get stuck in this place. And then for the men that say, you know what, I'm going to take a different path and I'm going to step outside of this. He's having a midlife crisis, right. You know?
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I mean, we'll talk about my situation and your situation, I'm sure, but radically changing my life 2 years ago, best thing I've ever done.
I was just thinking about that. I was thinking about like, well, he's inviting me on his show to talk about like radical life change and abrupt pivots. Like he's the poster child for it, right? I was thinking about how like you wouldn't trade what happened for the world at this point.
I wouldn't go back to my old profession for $1 million a year salary.
Right.
Because it's not my growth and what I have, the benefits that it has provided to my life is not a monetary one. Now, with that said, and I always say this on the show when I talk about it, I'm making 2 to 3 times the amount of money that I made as a police officer. Very good money as a jiu-jitsu coach. And the reason that I'm very careful to, or the reason I always like to bring that up is because it's not like boasting about, oh, I made it or I'm successful. Because I don't necessarily think that like where I'm at financially is where I should be or where I need to be, but I'm very comfortable and we're doing better than I did previously. Right. And that's the point that I like to bring up is that if you take that step into the unknown and you're pursuing something with passion and with love, and it's something that you believe in your heart benefits the community, like what you're going into, and we'll get into it, but it's something that is you're passionate about. It's something that's going to bring joy to other people. And you can just feel the energy. If you put your energy into the right things, it works out.
Yeah.
That's the world. I mean, you call it God, I call it the universe, like whatever you want to attribute it to. But if you do the right things and you stand up for what you believe and you seize opportunities, you can't fail.
Right.
And a lot of people are afraid to take that step because on the other side of that step is the unknown. And in an unknown situation, the potential for failure is there. And that's just reality.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what keeps people in this paralyzed state.
Right. I think that people are like, well, I don't, I'm really passionate about this, but I don't know how to make a living doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And my opinion is if you're that passionate about it, the passion will find its way into making a living for you.
For sure.
So you have a passion for jiu-jitsu. And when you're let go from the port, you poured all your energy into the academy.
Yep.
And it freaking exploded.
We have 185 members now.
Yeah.
I mean, I had 25 members when I was fired. So 25 members is not a viable academy. 25 members is more of a club with your friends.
It's like a hobby. Yeah.
It's a hobby. And I treated it as such because I was a full-time police officer. So
you didn't need it as an income.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've told this on the podcast before. There was a point in time where like I started to resent jiu-jitsu a little bit because I'm like, I love the art of jiu-jitsu. I love the vibe. I love the community, but financially, jiu-jitsu is just a black hole in my wallet.
Right.
I pour all this time and money and effort into my academy, and it's never produced anything. It's always in the red. And it used to frustrate me because I would say, I'm trying to attach monetary growth to my passion. And what I'm finding is that in itself is hurting my relationship with jiu-jitsu.
Right.
But it's because I wasn't looking at it correctly.
Yeah.
And I feel like I had a long talk with my professor and some other people, Greg Lappin, who runs a very successful jiu-jitsu academy, and tweaked some things and changed my perspectives and was able to create something that was more for everybody. Right. Instead of guys that just wanted to kill each other. Because that's what my team was, just a bunch of tough younger guys that were like, every night we're trying to kill each other. And that's cool.
Yeah.
But it's not what everybody needs out of jiu-jitsu.
And now I see like 30 kids, 10 and under rolling
Yeah, we had
around on the mat.
We had 36 kids at practice on Monday night.
Yeah.
And man, I tell you, teaching those children about how to grow into people that prioritize integrity and ethics and strength. And I talk to them about weakness. Like we do a drill where we do our leg raises and we have to hold our feet at 6 inches for 2 minutes. And I tell the kids, if you reach muscle failure and your feet touch the ground, I'm not mad about that. I want your feet right back in the air as quickly as you can. But what I will get angry at is if I look over and your face is all and you're wincing and you're giving the weakness, you're personifying weakness. I said, I want you to maintain strength. I want you to show strength. I want you guys all here to be a team together and we go through this as a group. And if you have anybody that like embraces the weakness, I said, that hurts us all as a collective. Yeah. And it's like, these are 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
And they get it.
And
it's so fulfilling, man.
I was over at Johnny Mac's last night, a mutual friend of ours, and they were talking about the kids' academy, and Megan was saying, like, I wish I could bottle up the commanding presence that Greg has with those kids on the mat. He's like, man, she said, if I could just like harness a little bit of that energy, that the attention that he can gain from those kids, and like bring that home, and she was amazed. So
I'll tell you this, that is a skill set that I've been developing over the last 2 years since I've implemented a kids program.
Yeah, because kids weren't a part of the program.
No, I only did adults. Yeah. I was like, I don't want to deal with kids. And now that It's like anything. If you do something long enough and you commit to it, you are going to get better at it.
Right.
And now I've found my stride in teaching children jiu-jitsu. And some of the parents, I can see it in their faces. Sometimes they're kind of like shocked at some of the things I say to the kids. But if two kids shoot in for a double leg takedown and bonk their heads and start crying, I immediately stand up, stop crying right now. We do not allow crying on my mats. And I'll tell them, if you're hurt, then you need to tough it out and you need to stay in the fight. If you're injured, if you bonk your head and it splits your eyebrow open and blood squirting everywhere, I said, anytime you are injured on my mats, we are going to take care of you.
Right.
Okay. If something is broke or something is cut, we are going to take care of you. But if you're hurt, 9 times out of 10, the hurt is emotional more than physical. Yeah. And this is what I always say. Take getting hurt in training as a training opportunity.
Exactly.
Because if you get in a fight in the Walmart parking lot and you go to use your jiu-jitsu and you fall down and bonk your head on the pavement, you're still in a fight.
Yeah.
So you have 2 choices. Figure out how to win that fight or start crying and be weak.
Your chances are probably 4 out of 5 that you are going to get in a fight in the Walmart parking lot anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And so, no, but watching these kids grow has been like, seriously, the most rewarding aspect of ever owning that gym.
Yeah.
Like I'm already looking forward to Monday night because I have a new lesson that I'm going to.
Oh, right on.
On Monday night, I'm going to do a competition with the kids. And we basically do a drill where they jump over their partner and then they turn around and they shoot between their legs, right? And it's high intensity. And we do it for 2 minutes. And I'm going to tell the kids, everybody count their reps. The winner is going to get an electric jiu-jitsu t-shirt. And I want them to count their reps on their own. And then I'm going to say, whoever got the highest number, you're the hardest worker in the room.
Right.
And in this gym, the hardest worker in the room gets rewarded. Right. And then I'm also going to say this. If there is any dispute, if anyone doubts the numbers, if anyone thinks you didn't pull the reps that you said you pulled, we can pull the security footage up and we can count your reps. And if anybody lies to their teammates about the number of reps that they got, that's the fastest way to get kicked out of this gym. Because a team needs integrity. Right. If you tell a teammate, hey, I did this or I'm going to do that, I need to be able to rely on the fact that you did that or you're going to do this. No questions asked. So if you said, hey, I got 63 reps, everybody on this room has to be able to believe you got 63 reps. Otherwise, the team dynamics are broken and we are not going to be successful as a team. It's extremely important. As a young ranger, they used to say, hey, when you go out in town, when you're out drinking, when you're out hanging out, when you're meeting girls, you can lie to people about everything. You can lie to them as much as you want to, and you're not going to catch any grief from us. But if you lie to anyone inside of the regiment, you will be kicked out because this team needs to be able to rely on the words that are coming out of the mouths of the men to the left and the right of them.
Sure.
And it's like, I don't know if you support lying out in town to random people, but
typically it's not a good thing.
Yeah, typically
it doesn't lead to good things.
But yeah, kind of going off on a jiu-jitsu tangent as usual. But no, I want to hear as a contractor, what led up to you needing some radical life changes, and then what direction do you find yourself taking your life now?
Well, I think it's a combination of just life circumstance when it comes to a career and an industry. Combination of that and a combination of just being super curious and exploring ways to stimulate my mental and physical health. It was, a decade ago that I realized that I was susceptible to depression. And a decade ago was when it was at its worst. Mm-hmm. And I fought through it. And, I had some people in my life encourage me to do certain, basically exercise. And exercise sort of kicked off, the whole thing that happens in your brain with the hippocampus. And you basically immediately began to be able to think different with exercise. And then therefore I was able to work through the spiritual and mental components along with that. But exercise is really what got me like pivot in the direction that my brain was going.
Had you gotten away from fitness?
I had gotten away from it to the extent that I was an active person. I've been active my whole life. I had gotten to the point where life was busy and there was a ton of stuff that needed my attention. 2012 was the year that our business finally felt the worst part of the economic downturn in housing from like 08, 09.
It was a long process to catch up.
I made it that long, and then circumstances in my small town led to it just it had a delayed effect for me. And dealing with last time I was on the podcast, we talked about parenting autistic child, and so I was dealing with that. I was dealing with the business. I was dealing with
how old was Max in 2012?
5.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, just trying to figure out how to handle him and who he was and like how to work through that. So there was a lot of different things pulling me in a lot of different directions, and physical fitness took a back seat. I remember specifically in that season, there were weeks where I would get up and I would do an early morning run, but that was about like maybe 1 or 2 a week. And when you're dealing with enough stuff and you're dealing with the personality type that I was born with, I'm a melancholy personality type. And so I feel things really deeply, and like emotion is a big part of my life. I feel like that personality type, just the way I'm wired, you're a little bit more susceptible to that stuff. And so when I start dealing with this thing over here and this thing over here, and it starts to add up, like the way I'm wired, like took all of the weight of that all at once and sort of just thrust me into a place that was pretty dark, and I didn't like it. Well, at any rate, I had some people in my life just say, hey, get out and start exercising, do it daily, get the shift going. Like you got to start thinking differently. And so I did. And then I was able to, once I implemented a better regimen in my life of physical fitness, I was able to then go back to the spiritual and the mental components and address those, which is really the issue that you're dealing with, was the mental. But it took the physical reaction and the change happening in my brain and the endorphins and all that stuff to get my brain to shift gears and go, okay, let's deal with this. But first you gotta like get this car started.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, people always say mind, body, and spirit. But I don't think those things are necessarily like separated.
No, they're not.
They're all intimately intertwined. You know?
And I'm a firm believer in if you let one slip, they're all going to crumble. And so that's a decade ago. You fast forward through the years, like I learned a big lesson during that time, which is one, that I'm susceptible to this thing. As hard as I want to be and as, active and out there and outgoing or whatever.
Yeah, it's part of you. It's there.
Like, dang it, man. Like I got this thing that if I let it creep back in, it's coming back. So I know that about myself.
And that's powerful.
Yeah. As much as I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's good that I'm aware.
Well, and I'll say this too, and this is a very powerful perspective if you are a person that's susceptible to depression, because I went through some really dark times too. And as I sit here today talking, I literally think that's behind me. I think I've figured out a path to put that behind me. But I also, just like you said, that's been a part of me in the past. And if it rears its ugly head again, I'm equipped with the tools to face it and confront it. But I had a therapist tell me this one time that's very, very powerful. She said, when you're in that dark, depressive state, think of it as a cloud above your head and you're in the storm. and the storm is engulfing you. It's all around you. So you look up, you look to the side, you look down. Everywhere you look, you're inside of the storm. And a lot of people feel like, now I'm trapped in here and this is life now.
And there's no blue sky.
And there's no blue sky anywhere.
Yeah.
But once you've been through it once or twice or 10 times, you realize, okay, I'm in the storm right now. And you guys can hear my dogs barking because I do real life and we podcast out of my house. Yep. But once you realize that the storm will eventually, the clouds will break and blue sky will shine on you again. You'll feel that sun on your face. Yeah. And you realize this is a process. And once you know, like, okay, this is where I'm at today, but in tomorrow or the next day or the day after that, the sun will shine again. And this is a cycle and I have to figure out how to break this cycle and get out of it. That, knowing that in itself is very freeing because, I mean, I've been to the point where I've wanted to shoot myself because it's like, okay, this is now who I am. This is now how I feel. But what you're doing is you're telling yourself a lie.
Right.
Because that's how you feel in this moment. I've lost a fair amount of friends to suicide over the last 3 years. And it makes me sad because I know that place that they're sitting in, they think that there's no escape. Yeah. But if they would just take the time and implement some of these measures, the clouds will break and the storm will pass.
Yeah.
And it's sad, man. A lot more people than we think are in that state.
Yeah. So the first one or maybe 2 times that you go through that, I don't think you can be told how to manage it and how to get out of it. I think you have to experience it. And I think you've got to put in the work yourself. You can, like, if it were your first go around with depression and I walked up to you having fought it for a decade and learned tactics and I've got a tool bag full of tools to fight this and I tell you those things, I don't think they have half the power that you just knuckling down and doing it yourself.
For sure.
And getting through that. And then you've got the experience behind you. I don't think that, what was I trying to say? Being told is one thing, experiencing it is another. And I think that in all things, whether it's depression or it's other challenges in life, there's a lot of it that you just have to go through.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And you've got to figure it out on your own. You can be, a lot of these self-help guys and a lot of these entrepreneurial guys are like, hey, just get out and move. That's their big thing. It's like, hey, quit talking about it. Just go do it. Go. Like, you got an idea? Okay, shut up. Go do it. Go make a move. And that's the same thing with this issue is like, look, I can coach you through this to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, you got to experience this and you've got to take it and look at it as an opportunity to grow and catalog all those things that helped you get out of it. Cause you are going to get out of it. Like you said, there is blue sky on top of that cloud, but you gotta fight. You gotta get your, I'm going to give you a couple of tools and help you. But then at some point I'm going to have to stand back and watch you bust through that cloud and get to the blue sky. And then I'm going to remind you, what did you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Catalog those things.
No, that's powerful, man. It goes back to kind of what we were saying at the beginning of the show. It's like even bad situations, i.e. getting scammed on the internet, you can take away some positives from that. And it's no different. Like going through some bad bouts of depression where I thought like I was worthless and nobody loved me. And the one that gets you, I think the one that tips is like the tipping point for a lot of people is that I'm just a burden to everybody. Like I don't enrich people's lives. I actually detract from enriching people's lives. And your brain has this weird way of telling you all these lies. Because you go to any person in your life, any single friend or family member or business partner, and you say, hey, would you be better off if I was gone? Like, you're not going to have one person say, yeah, I think so.
Right.
But you tell yourself that, right? I mean, I was at that point. I don't know if you were at that point, but it's bizarre how your own mind literally fabricates these lies to perpetuate this negative state that you're in. And it's a negative vibration. It's a negative energy that once it gets a hold of you, it doesn't want you to defeat it.
Yeah.
And I mean, is it spiritual? Is it evil? You know what I mean? Like there's a lot going on there.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. It's 100% spiritual. People go, well, you think of the mind, body, and spirit. I know how to do physical fitness. I know some mental exercises, and some people get lost in the spiritual component. Like, well, how do I work on my spiritual stuff? Well, going back to what you just said, there was a moment where I told myself, like, my kids would be better off without me.
Yeah.
What kind of a jacked up lie is that? You really think that your kids are going to be better off without a dad?
It's literally, and I know I have some friends whose parents committed suicide when they were kids. That's a lifelong burden to carry around.
Right.
Like you would have messed them up for life.
It's a destructive force.
And in being like winning people, like we're motivated people. If we put our mindset to things, we do well at them and we excel. And that's getting into our brains. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's some part of you that's telling yourself that. It's bizarre. And it's strange that most people will never articulate this or never be truthful about it, you know?
Yeah. It's for me that component, that lying to yourself that you're not good enough and that people would be better off without you is 100% spiritual. You and I, share a little bit different viewpoints on the spiritual component. But I think that, that's just that's a demonic thing. That's just evil at its core. And, that negative spirit trying to get in and lie to you. And, for me, it's relying on the promise that God instilled that, hey, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. I created you like this. I knew about this from the beginning of time, and I equipped you with the ability to get out of this.
So
being lied to.
When you started feeling that, like, my kids would be better without me, was it your faith in God that helped you take that step back and be like, okay, it's time to change my trajectory?
That season of my life, actually, so I've been a Christian my whole entire life. And here I am in my mid-30s, and I basically just threw out my faith, and I started over. Like, everything I learned in Sunday school, everything I learned from my folks, everything I know to be true, I'm just going to start over. And I literally retrace my steps all the way back to kind of core fundamentals of what I believe about the world, what I believe about, intelligent design versus evolution, like back to like, how did this world come about? And I pretty much arrived back at the same place of where I started, but it was an exercise for me that I think I needed to go through because of things that I just gained through osmosis growing up. And you're like, well, so I was told that, and I've been told that since I knew how to communicate with another human being.
So that's just, your reality.
Yeah. And so, but is that reality? Is it just my reality? And so I basically, kind of just said, all right, I'm going to just stop the train here. I'm going to go back and really figure out what I believe. And I'm going to do some research, and I'm going to test this. I think anything that you believe in life needs to be tested. And I think that if you really want to speak about it and have any kind of authority in it, you got to test it. You gotta know for sure. And so I think that exercise was good for me in that I just went back and retraced my steps and did an exercise of, is this what I've been told and I just go along because that's just everything I've always heard, or is this truly what I believe? And
how powerful is that to come to the same conclusion kind of reaffirms everything about your faith.
Yeah. So
it probably makes you feel that much more powerful.
It is. But in that moment, people ask like, oh, well, so it was the Lord that got you out of that. It was God that helped you and your faith in God, like crawl out of that. And I was like, bro, I was reworking everything in that moment. I was dealing with my physical. Just I felt weak and sick because of like all the toxicity that was in my body at that moment from my brain.
Yeah.
I was working on my mental, and I was trying to figure out how to shift gears and start thinking positively and crawl out of the mess that I was in. And then I was like, the spiritual thing was probably one of the bigger ones where I was just like, nope, let's throw like it, usually you would say, hey, if you're gonna have a 3-legged stool, at least try to keep 2 of the legs intact as you you rebuild the third one. No, I basically kicked all 3 legs out from the stool and started over with all of them.
How was and if you're not comfortable talking about this on the air, you can say, we'll talk about it afterwards. But how was your relationship with your wife through this period? Because I'll tell you this, for me, the world can be burning, but as long as your home feels like your sanctuary, that's where you can come home and you can when you shut the door, all of the stresses of life are outside and this place is your sanctuary. Yeah. I feel like I can deal with a lot. But when things outside of the home are not perfect and then things inside of the home are also not perfect, that's when I spiral fast.
Yeah. Jamie is rock solid, is solid as they come. Mm-hmm. I mean, I huge part of my life testimony is her and the strength that she brings to the marriage, the strength that she brings in all aspects, the mental, spiritual, and physical. I mean, you know her.
She's a savage.
She's a savage. And in that darkest hour, she was rock solid. And she never said a word like, hey, get your ass up. Let's go. Come on. Let's do this. Get better. She just stood strongly by, helped with the kids, comforted and encouraged.
Did you communicate much how you were feeling, or were you kind of...
I was scared too.
Yeah, me too, man. Like, especially like being a man of strength, that right. Like you like to be the sign of strength in your household. Being extremely vulnerable to your woman, who is like you or her protector. I had problems with that.
Yeah.
But I've since learned it's like being vulnerable to your woman is a sign of strength.
Totally.
Yeah, it's the strongest. But vulnerability, in my opinion, is one of the strongest things that you can do. But it's weird that you have to walk this path before you learn that and you actually start to feel that.
Well, God wired us, men and women, radically different, and women are just hands down better nurturers.
100%, dude.
And that's not just for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's for the husbands and the spouses too. You're just like they being vulnerable and being transparent is always, I think, the better option. Transparency and authenticity. Like, how do you ever lose?
Yeah, right? I think in our culture, when you're transparent about who you are or how you feel, there's a lot of people that are going to cast negative energy at you.
Yeah.
And the internet has exasperated it dramatically. Sure. But regardless, even if like the fear of being judged or the fear of that negative energy being cast at you makes a lot of people reluctant to show that vulnerability.
Yeah.
And here's the weird thing. And I think it was Joe Rogan that said it. I listened to his episode with Nims Dye from 14 Peaks.
Yeah.
And he said that is like, when people are casting negative energy at other people, what they're actually doing is they're stealing from themselves. Mm-hmm. Because you could have used that same amount of energy to something productive, to something to benefit you. But the reality of the world we live in, a lot of people cast negative energy at you for anything that you do.
Yeah.
You know? And that makes us reluctant because we fear that for some reason.
Right.
And that's something that I've talked about on the show a lot. When my story first blew up, I was very, like, the negativity that was being thrown at me, it bothered me.
Yeah.
Who's this person writing me an email telling me what a piece of shit I am?
Right.
Why are they doing that? And it didn't make me feel good. And you have to realize like, this is just a numbers game. And the human collective, there's a certain amount of people that want to uplift other people. And then there's a certain amount of people that want to tear other people down. And if you allow that negative energy to influence you, you're going to be stuck down there with them forever.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. No, I don't experience it on your level, but my YouTube channel with Max has 25,000 followers.
Your YouTube channel's huge, man.
And
I was just going to say, I remember you and I did an ice bath video, and there was a bunch of comments like, "Hey, is this your gay lover?" And
I was like 100%.
Yeah, 100%. I thought that was funny though. I was like, man, are we giving off the gay vibe?
Yeah.
we both got hot wives. Knock it off.
Right.
But here's the funny thing though, is like, even though a bunch of people were asking that, your channel doesn't have like, I didn't see hate on it. People were literally asking like, "Hey, I'm not judging you guys, and if you're in love, cool. We're just curious. Is this your boyfriend?" I was like, "Oh,
no." But there are people that have. So, like, you want to talk about like hitting close to home. When I am that vulnerable with a son with special needs, and we get online and we film a conversation with each other about autism and what it's like to be a teenager dealing with being a teenager as an autistic. And we have a raw and authentic conversation, and it's 7 to 10 minutes, and we post that for the world to see. If you come at me and tell me that I'm a bad dad, and for some stupid reason, whether it's, "Hey, why are you exposing your son like this to the world?" Or you should have done this differently, or, it like the negative energy, you're just like, good Lord, like, why would you bother to say that? And I realized that some of that stuff is just like, there's people in really rough shape out there, and they're struggling. And that's the only way that in their small mind that they can figure out how to process and deal with their own bullshit is that they just project it on other people. And you just have to go, you know what? I'm gonna write that one off. That was so far out there that I'm just not even gonna let that affect me.
No, I mean, when I first started getting stuff like this, I'd want to fight people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, that's you too.
Yeah, yeah, but it's like, okay, you're comfortable saying this to me on Instagram. I'll fly you first class to Seattle to say it to my face, and it's like, by saying that, or even by being willing to do that, I'm playing into their game. I'm allowing them to dictate my emotions and how I feel. And I've moved so far past that over the last 2 years that it's like 9 times out of 10, when someone writes something hateful to me, I don't even reply back to it.
Right.
I'm not even going to give energy. Yeah, but if I do,
that's basically them stealing it.
Yes. Yeah. But if I do reply back, I'm nice about it.
Right. You say things like, "Hey, I'm glad you have the freedom to express."
Yeah, exactly.
And I, while I don't agree with you, I value your
exactly. Yeah. And I'll say things like that. And man, I've even had people write back and be like, "Hey, I'm sorry for coming at you like that, man."
Yeah.
And it's like, wow.
You totally disarm a situation. Now all of a sudden people take their guard down.
And people don't want to have their guard up and being mean to everybody, but it's just kind of this natural place that a lot of people find themselves in because they are on that low vibration. They're surrounded by negativity, and all you have to do is look at the American culture. Look at how a lot of people are living their lives, putting shit food into their bodies, going to work, and spending 10 hours a day at something that they don't enjoy. And then they come back and they sit on their couch and they watch some meaningless movie. And it's like, they're in this revolving door that's not serving them. It's it's slowly killing them. And what are they going to do? They're going to start putting that negative energy that is their vibration out to the world, because that's what they know. That's who they are.
Well, they have the confidence because there's no repercussions.
100%. Yeah.
They can sit there in their dark corner of their bedroom and fire off whatever hate poison that they want, and then there's no repercussions. Like you and I were talking the other day, like the internet's done everybody a giant disservice because you can't say that to if you would say that same stuff to somebody's face, the world would be radically different.
100%. But it's weird that I mean, I see stuff on the internet every single day that is just like appalling. Today, for example, what is today? March 19th. And I opened up Instagram and I saw that dude won the women's national swimming championship.
Yep.
And it just makes you sick, right? It's like,
totally.
what are we doing right now? All these young ladies that have been trying to strive to be a champion for probably their whole life.
Sure.
Got taken away by a dude.
Yeah, they've reached the pinnacle. They've reached their Olympics, maybe, of what they think they can achieve, and it just got totally robbed.
And like, I want to say so much shit about that guy. You know, I want to get on the comments and be like, you know, like I saw a bunch of people writing like cheater has a Peter, you know, and it's
the Babylon Bees was the best. Did you see that one? They said female athlete caught with performance enhancing testicles.
Yeah. But it's like, and I'm not going to say that I never comment. Like when I see like my buddies like Ian Smith or something, post something, it's like, yeah. But what I don't ever do is write that individual person some type of hateful message. I'm not going to go find his social media and click message him and write him something negative, because I just don't see that having any type of benefit to resolving our culture, resolving the situation, resolving the fact that how we even arrived here as a society. But regardless of what the situation is, I can't imagine something bothering me enough where I'm going to go to that person, I'm going to click message them, and then I'm going to send something hateful into their inbox. And my inbox, I'm not going to say it's full of hate, because the truth is it's 99% good stuff.
Right.
I have a very good interaction with most of the people on Instagram, but there is hateful messages that come through. And it's bizarre that people would take their time to try and send me something. Like I made a video about the Ukraine situation the other day, and I don't know if you saw it or not, but dude, I took about as neutral of a stance as you could take. I literally said like verbatim, like there's a lot of different key players, you know, like, but mainstream media says fucking Ukraine good, Russia bad, Putin is your enemy, so now you hate them. And I said, I just think people need to be careful on how fast they draw conclusions based on what our politicians are telling us. Because if you look at the track record of our politicians, they lie to us about everything.
Everything.
And so if Hillary Clinton is telling me something, there's a good chance I'm going to immediately be like, you know what? It's probably the opposite of that. Right. And I didn't come to that conclusion by accident, you know? And man, I got some people pissed at me. You know, like, what the fuck? Like, you don't fucking support Ukraine, you idiot. You're a fucking idiot, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I didn't say I didn't support Ukraine. Or then other people are like, so I guess you just support Russia slaughtering civilians. And it's like, I don't know where you drew that from. I didn't say anything about anybody supporting anybody being slaughtered. I'm just saying things aren't what they seem.
Right.
Please be a critical thinker and have an open mind. And just saying that, man.
Well, look what the last 2 years did. I mean, you took a step back when our world and our country responded to COVID. Mm-hmm. And you're like, whoa, hang on a second. There's a few things that aren't adding up. And as you pause, the more things start to come to light. And and you've learned over the last 2 years, like, all right, before I run my mouth about this thing, as soon as it happens, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to pause because there's some stuff that might not totally add up here. And I've, stayed pretty quiet about that Russia-Ukraine thing because, dude, I don't know foreign policy. I don't know. Like Zelensky seems a little weird, like with his past. And obviously Putin's been in the limelight for a long time. And like,
there's a lot of corruption on both sides. It's indisputable.
But here's the issue. What amount of the people saying this or that about the issue know more than 1% of what they should know about the issue.
Yeah.
And that's the thing where it's like, I've learned to, if I don't know my way around an issue, I'm not going to take an opinion. I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to say things like, that's weird. That doesn't really add up. And that's what I've kind of done with the whole COVID thing is like, hey, look, I'm not blasting anybody for taking the vaccine. But what I did do is go, hey, there's some stuff that's weird about this thing. Like, I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna think about this critically, and I'll make up my mind later. And then later comes around, and you're like, oh, geez, all that stuff that I thought about is coming true.
Yeah, I'm just a dumb ranger. What does he know, you know?
Right.
But no, and it's a good lesson for people because I think it shows you to trust your intuition. Like when all of this stuff was popping off, something felt off to me right at the beginning. Obviously, that's why I made that video.
That's why we're sitting here.
That's why we're sitting here doing a podcast, right? Something felt off. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But when something feels off, like where there's smoke, there's fire, right? Like this, and you need to trust your intuition. And by trusting my intuition, here we are 2 years later. And what is the CDC saying? We've realized cloth masks never worked.
Right.
We've realized that natural immunity is actually better than the vaccine immunity.
Right.
And it's like, if you said this stuff a year ago, your Instagram gets deleted.
Oh, I know.
You know, but here we are now, and now the government is saying it. So enough things like that have happened in my life to where I don't trust the government anymore. Period. And that's a reasonable place to arrive at. But if you say that publicly,
you want to be able to trust them.
I would love to have a government that I feel has my back.
Just shooting straight with you.
I talk about it all the time, like because people be like, when they refer to me as an alpha male, I say this all the time. I say, dude, I actually enjoy being a follower when I'm under competent leadership. Some of the best teams that I've ever been on. In fact, I'm going to his wedding next week. My team leader when I was in Ramadi was a Delta dude that was a savage. And he was a tactical genius. And when he was on the battlefield, he could see things in a way that nobody else could. His brain is a GPS, and it's spooky. I love the fact that he was the team leader.
Right.
I would never want to be like, hey, can I be team leader today?
Yeah,
you know,
I'll substitute for you.
And so like when the right people are in charge, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. That makes your team stronger. If you're not the best suited person to be calling the shots or be steering the ship, take a back seat and be comfortable in that back seat. And now you can say from that back seat, hey, what can I do to facilitate the mission the best?
Yeah.
And that's what our politicians need to realize.
Yeah.
Is like their leadership, if they're the best suited person, then awesome. But if they're not, that's also awesome. But put yourself in the right position. But they're not doing that. They're always clawing everybody's eyes out, trying to maintain power and stay at the top. And it's got us to where we're at.
Yeah. Last couple of years have been a big revealer for me. Like just recognizing that, yeah, maybe I had a little too much blind faith in the system or in politicians or what I thought to be true. And I was like literally going down the list of things that I'm thankful for that the last 2 years have brought on. Like, okay, let's just face it. The last 2 years have been really crappy for a lot of people. And there's been a lot of bad stuff, and our world seems to be in complete chaos and downward spiral, all that stuff. But there are a bullet point list for me of things that I'm really thankful for because of the last couple of years.
I say the same thing. It's the silver linings, right?
Yeah.
And my life is exponentially increased in value and enjoyment over how I've navigated the waters over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And I bring it up often because I think it's important. It doesn't matter how shitty the world gets. It's how you navigate through it and your perspective on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's all on you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been wild, man. I just, thinking about like everything in the government, and you're like, all right, now I don't even, so for like my lifetime, I've kind of, identified as a Republican. Man, I can't stand the Republican Party right now.
I can't stand either of them right now.
Right.
There's a few people, there's a few outliers. Tulsi Gabbard's one of them, who is, I believe she is speaking truth and she's being authentic. But if I say that, I'll get emails just from saying that. People are like, oh, you support a fucking Democrat now? It's like, guys, you're getting caught up in what team you're on.
Right. And
instead of getting caught up on what team you're on, you need to get caught up in who is speaking truth and who has your best interests in mind. And I said this on the show a lot, is that what I expect out of my politicians is not for me to be in alignment with them, not for me to share the same views as them, not for them to come to the same conclusions as me. What I need out of my politicians is for them to speak their truth. So words that come out of your mouth have to be congruent with how you feel in your heart. But we don't get that from hardly any of our politicians. They say one thing and then they do another. And then they flip-flop. And then they'll say a different thing and then do another. And it's this game, it's a shell game they play to try and appease different groups of people just to generate votes. And as soon as you start playing this shell game, we know you're not authentic. We know that your values are compromised. We know that you don't put integrity above all else. And as soon as you're that person, you can't be in a leadership position.
Yeah.
Period. You're compromised. It's over. And that's all of them now.
Yeah.
And it's exciting seeing this movement. I got a couple buddies like Joe Kent and Tony Cowden that are running for Congress. And I mean, if we can get enough people in there to just kind of change the overarching theme of how the political system works, maybe we can turn this around.
Yeah. Just even a little bit of a shakeup could start snowball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see what I posted the other day on Instagram? I said,
about sending, like, if you want to, if you can't lead from the front lines,
then you shouldn't be there. And I honestly, and this isn't like, and I say some crazy shit, just having fun and whatever, but I literally believe this to be true, that if Congress says we need to be in war, that we should literally draw up legislation to where 5 congressmen or congresswomen at any time have to be present on the front lines. And you don't know when your number's coming up. It's a lottery. We put everyone's name in a bucket and we draw 5 names out. And these 5 congressmen or congresswomen are going to be serving on the front lines for 90 days. And then we'll go ahead and draw another 5. And as long as you guys perpetuate war, 5 of you will be on the front lines. And not 5 of you in the green zone in Baghdad eating Burger King and going to bars at night. 5 of you guys will be at combat outposts in Ramadi. And I'm not even saying they have to be fighting because they're not trained. They don't have tactics. But they need their physical safety and their physical bodies to be in harm's way. Because when your physical body is in harm's way and you're getting blown up every day, you might have a very different perspective on what necessitates war. And here's the other thing. If I was in Congress and I said, you know what, and I raise my right hand and I say, I think this conflict is egregious enough and dangerous enough that we need to send our sons and daughters to fight other men on the field of battle, I can't say that in good faith if I wasn't willing to risk my own personal safety.
Sure. If
it's that important, of course you'd be willing to risk your own safety. How many of those people do you think would do that? Very, very few of them.
Yeah.
I bet you could count on one hand.
Maybe Dan Crenshaw, as much as I've kind of grown to not like the guy.
No, he's war hawking right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, Dan, you understand war and how ugly it can get better than probably anybody in there. I mean, he almost went completely blind because of it.
Right.
And it's like, this is where I'm at on war. I'm done playing world police. I'm done with America taking our military and spreading it thin across the globe to secure a democracy and peace and liberty. Because that's what they told us. That's what they told us about Afghanistan. That's what they told us about Iraq. And remember, Iraq was about weapons of mass destruction. Then once we didn't find those, they changed it to Operation Iraqi Freedom. We're here to secure peace for the Iraqi people. And now we're talking about securing peace for the Ukrainian people. And at the end of the day, I'm all about securing peace for people and securing liberty and promoting a democracy. But we got to be good in our house first.
Right. We got a country that is falling.
We got a lot of cleaning up to do right here.
Right.
And it's, I've talked about on the show before, it's like a relationship, right? you can't be good for your community if you're not good in your house.
Sure.
And if you got cleaning up to do in your house, that has to take priority. Clean your house up. Fix what's going on behind closed doors in your house. And now you might be able to become a person that can help clean up your community. And it grows exponentially, right? But I don't think America is in a place right now to be playing world police and be telling people about how to secure democracy or how to promote liberties or how to promote freedom. We got a lot of cleaning up to do right here. And if we arrive at a place where we do have the capacity to serve other parts of the world, I'm all about that. I mean, anybody that knows me knows I care about people. I care about humanity. I just don't think we have the capacity to do it right now.
Right. Agree. Should we
go back to
should we talk about politics for the next 3 hours?
Dude, let's go back to, because I mean, we started to delve into it and then we got sidetracked. But remember, getting sidetracked and going down different rabbit holes is what makes podcasting authentic.
Totally.
And it's what makes people enjoy podcasting.
Yeah, I mean, I have no business talking about politics, but whatever.
Yeah, but it's better than tuning into Fox News and getting a 2-second snippet, you know?
Right.
But yeah, you are walking away from a career you've held pretty much your entire adult life, right?
So let me share another story before we get to that point.
All right,
and
let's do
it. 2018, you and I are sitting at the Thanksgiving table together. Families are together, and I didn't tell you this at the time, but like I felt the darkness kind of knocking at the door in that season of my life, and I was legitimately like on the just scratching the surface of, whoa, wait a minute. I thought I dealt with this.
Mm-hmm.
I thought 6 years ago or whatever, I'd put this crap behind me. And I was struggling a little bit. Like I wasn't full blown depressed, but I could feel it. And I remember sitting there and I don't even know how it came up, but you and I both started talking about, hey, what, and I knew that like the biggest asset for me to fight depression is putting a goal in front of me. Whatever that goal is, it's got to include physical fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And you had said, no, I think it was the fact that you and I were thinking about doing that Rainier 50 miler.
Okay.
And that was when your knee was all jacked up.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it. And then we were sitting at Thanksgiving and I was like literally kind of struggling with mental stuff at the time. And you go, hey, what should we do this year that challenges ourselves? And we both kind of agreed on doing a triathlon. And I went home and kind of, we didn't really talk about it all that much. Didn't put a plan together. It just kind of, felt like the conversation moved on. I got home and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I was like, you know what? The best way that I know to fight this darkness knocking on the door is to put a goal in front of me, put something hard in front of me, something I got to train for, take my mind off of what's going on. And so I signed up for a half Ironman without owning a road bike or ever done any distance swimming in my life. And that was, I talked about this whole story on the last time I was on the show, but it was, a wild turn of events where I literally, the act of training to do a half Ironman, it like literally snapped me out of that mental funk right away. And then it turns out that COVID kicked off.
It got canceled,
and
right?
It got canceled. And I was like, then you're just like...
right back to where you started.
Like, dang it. No. But this realization that...
it wasn't the race you needed.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Well, so it's the realization that, man, my best seasons of life, my biggest growth moments are the moments where I deliberately put something painful in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And something that's manageable. Like, I don't want to deal with like my family being slaughtered. Like, I'm not going to do that, right?
No, yeah.
But you put something painful in front of you. You put something in your path and you're like, all right, I'm going to deliberately put this out there. I'm going to figure out a way around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I might fail, but as soon as I fail, I'm going to pick myself back up and I'm going to try again. And I realized that through training for that half Ironman, like just putting something out in front of me made all the difference in the world. And I was continually growing. I was continually getting better. And it was changing my spiritual, my mental, and my physical when I would just put a physical goal in front of me.
Well, and I was watching your run times through, was it Strava that you use?
Yeah.
You're hitting like long distance runs, holding a 7-minute pace. And I was like, well, I guess I won't be ever doing a triathlon with Chad.
But
No, but you were killing it and you were getting after it. And it was, it was noticeable, you know?
Yeah, that was 3 or 4 years ago now. And so in that 3 or 4 years, I've made a plan, whether it's weekly or it's daily or it's seasonally. Like I just want to have something out in front of me that's painful. I want to know what I'm capable of, and then when I find out what I'm capable of, I want to see if it can go just a little bit further.
Bro, that's living. That's what we all should be doing, right? You're either growing or dying.
Yeah.
That's it. You're either getting better or getting worse. I don't think anybody just hovers in neutrality, you know? Yeah. And one thing you said is like, you said I might fail. And it's an important point to bring up is that failure is okay.
Fail forward.
A lot of people are super afraid of failing. And I've signed up for a lot of events or put goals in front of me. And the 50 miler is one of them. And I can say, oh, my knee gave out and I couldn't train for it and I didn't accomplish it. And there's a lot of truth to that, you know, but I've put a lot of goals in front of me that I failed at.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You know, something I tell my kids all the time, my jiu-jitsu kids, not my actual kids, is, because they'll be like, oh, I sucked today. I sucked. Nothing worked. And I could see them getting frustrated. So I always say this to kids. I'll be like, you know who really sucked at basketball at one point in his life? And sometimes they'll be like, oh, you? No, we're not talking about me. I'm talking about
I suck right now.
I suck right now. I've always sucked at basketball. We're talking about Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
There was a time when he sucked. Tiger Woods sucked at golf at some point in his life.
It was like when he was 3.
It was when he was, right? But my point is like the people, and then I'll point, we have a picture of Boucher Show on my wall, who's a 13-time world champion in jiu-jitsu and a friend of mine. And I say, look up at Boucher Show. He sucked at jiu-jitsu at some point in his life, just like you feel like you suck right now.
Yeah.
Now he's the 13-time world champion. Like part of failing or part of getting better is sucking at something.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no way around it, you know?
Yeah. So I started doing also physical exercise that required more mental than physical. I mean, you were in the physical, but it required mental. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's the heat and the cold.
Yeah.
And so you and I very much share a desire to push our mental capacity beyond its limits through ice and heat. And,
real quick, do you want to hit heat after we're done recording?
Sure. I brought my trunks over, man.
All right. As you're talking, I'm gonna tell Jenny to turn the sauna on.
Okay. And so, I've been on this path ever since I decided to train for that triathlon. I've been on this path where I just want to have something in front of me. I want to have a goal in front of me. I want to be able to, challenge myself, put myself through some pain that I decide. Like there's some pain in my life that I didn't get any decisions on, like watching my wife go through brain surgery or thyroid cancer. Like that's stuff that I didn't get a say in.
Yeah.
And it was painful. But going through those times, I realized when I look back, like those were the best times. I still have my wife. So I'm thankful for that. Through a couple of different life-threatening situations. But man, those moments were the best for our marriage, for our, like, it's just so enriching if you take the challenge and you make it a growth opportunity. And so recognizing that and moving forward and knowing that I'm probably going to deal with the fact that this stupid depression thing is just waiting in the background all the time. And I'm just going to, okay, well, here's preventative maintenance that I'm going to do. I'm going to put something in my life that that's painful that I can focus on instead of focusing on something else, and then grow. Every time I do it, I can grow. And I've been doing saunas and cold water stuff for a long time now. Just the other night, I was in the sauna. I don't know if you saw this on Instagram, but I posted about it, and it was, I got in, and from owning one, like there are days where before you get in, if it's going to kick your ass or not.
Yeah.
And I had one of those days. I hadn't had enough water. I was tired. Like maybe my food consumption wasn't all that great. And like if you do saunas long enough, like when you get in, I'm going to kick this thing's ass, or this thing's going to kick my ass.
Yeah, it's coming for you.
Yeah. And you get in no matter what. And I knew and so at 15 minutes, I was like, dude, this thing's just beating the crap out of me. I'm going to get out at 25, because usually my goal is 30 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, and, same with me.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to get out at 25. I want to get out at 15, but I'm just going to push myself.
That's the worst, when it's kicking the shit out of you, because I don't watch the clock. Yeah. I have a stopwatch that I put face down, and then I'll start to convince myself that it's been longer than it's been because of how I feel. Yeah. And I'll do a time check. And if it's at like 12 or 13 and it's already kicking my ass, I'm like, dude, you're not even halfway done yet.
Right. So I got, at 15 minutes, I go, all right, I'm going to get out at 25. I got to go at least 10 more minutes. My brain automatically went to a 10-minute countdown. And if you ever put a countdown on something hard, you know that all you're trying to do is make it to 0.
Yeah.
And your brain and your body knows that at 0, they can stop and you can let down. And your body goes into this sort of regimented thing where it's going to do this shutdown right to 0.
Yep.
And you can't go beyond it. Once you've set that in your head, you can't convince your brain to go beyond that, if you think of it in those words. And so I immediately, like, after years of doing this, I recognize, like, no, that you're screwing up your potential. You just totally put a barrier, you stifled it right there. Don't think about just 10 more minutes. So I started saying out loud in the sauna, I'm all by myself. I'm like, man, I wonder what I'm capable of. I wonder what 2 more minutes is going to feel like. I wonder what 5 more minutes is going to feel like. You know what? I'm not even sure at this point what I'm capable of, because I've always put a limit on it. And I'm just curious to know. I started using the words like I just want to satisfy my curiosity. I ended up getting out at 30. I didn't go past it, but I got out at 30 under peace, not under duress, not like, oh God, make it get to 0. I can, just the last 30 seconds, I can hold on for 30 seconds. No, I got out with a completely different mind frame. I got out at 30 minutes, but I got out going, interesting. I made it 5 more minutes than my brain thought I was going to go.
Yeah.
Just by shifting my thought process and speaking out loud, words like, hey, I wonder what I can do. What am I going to feel like at 2 more minutes?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to ruminate on that and think about how I can incorporate that into my sauna training, because you're right. When you do have a countdown, and mine is 30 minutes. So if I pick up my watch and I'm at 29, it doesn't matter how bad I felt or how hot I am, or if I feel like I'm on the verge of death. When I see 1 minute left, I'm powerful now.
Yeah.
Nothing can bother me at this point. You can do anything for 1 minute. And it's the same thing when I used to do long distance runs, like at the old house, the Centennial Trail runs by it. When we were living there, I'd do 10-mile runs like pretty often, and it would kick my ass. And when I was 2 or 3 minutes away from being done, you're 9.5 miles in, I would suddenly feel unstoppable.
Yeah.
And it's like I can breathe better. My stride is longer. Now no more fatigue is setting in. And it's like my same body's doing the same work, but for some reason it's not affecting me as much right now.
Yeah.
And that only reason is because you see the light at the end of the tunnel. But why is that work like that? Like it's bizarre.
Well, it goes to show you, like, you follow Goggins, and he's huge with, like, your body's capable, way more capable.
40%. That's his number. Most people quit at 40%.
Right. And it's just been it's a fun experiment. You hear that mind over matter comment, like you can hear that, and everyone's heard it. But the problem with that statement is, like, you're what about change? So yeah, what am I trying to say here? The mind is such that if you allow it to put limitations, that you're not going to be able to do mind over matter. The foundation is you've got to change your mind. You've got to change your thinking in a way that it is pushing beyond what you think is capable, or what your body's capable of, and then letting your body just do its thing.
Do the work.
Try to get your mind out of the way.
Yeah.
Is the thing. So mind over matter to me is more like, get your mind out of the way. Like, set up some goals, set up some, an environment of growth, and then get your mind out of the way, because your mind will second guess things until you quit.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that's why, that's why 14 Peaks is my favorite piece of television ever made.
Yeah.
Because it takes that exact approach, and it shows you that's the reality. Yeah. If you get your mind out of the way, you set a goal and you say, I can do this. And then you put your mind on the back burner and just do the work. Like,
when every single person on the planet's mind was saying that's impossible.
That's impossible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And guess what? He did it.
He did it.
Yeah. And guess what? Again, I just listened to him on Rogan. Even he was getting hate. Okay. Yeah, people were writing him on Instagram saying, like, oh, you just did it because you want fame, not because you really wanted to represent the Nepalese climbing community. It's about you. It's not about Nepal. And it's just like, man,
you can't escape it.
You can do the most fantastic feat that humanity's ever seen. Someone's upset about it.
Yeah. Jesus was the most loving guy ever to walk the earth. They hung him on a cross.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just people's innate evil. I mean, I don't think of myself as inherently evil, but that's like there's a sin component in each of us that you and I might not act on it and bitch someone out on social media, but other people can't.
Yeah.
They can't refrain from doing that. So.
Well, and that's why, setting goals and putting arduous tasks in front of you. That's why I want to go to Antarctica this year.
Yeah.
And I've dabbled in mountain climbing for 15 years now and climbed Rainier a bunch of times, but I needed exactly what you said. I need something on the calendar that's going to be awesome. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be an adventure, but it's going to be miserable too. Dragging a sled and, 0 degrees or whatever it is. Like, I know what I'm getting into to some extent, but I've never done something. That'd be the highest mountain that I've ever climbed. So I know it's like, this is going to push myself further than I've ever been pushed.
This is why specific life goals are so stinking important. If you said at the time you committed to go to Antarctica, instead of saying Antarctica, you said, I'm going to climb a mountain. Like that. Yeah, that's a goal, but that's not definitive.
Yeah.
Right? You now all of a sudden name the place, and now you're talking logistics. You're thinking about that specific environment. Specificity in goal setting is crucial. Having goal, like a lot of people, I don't know. What do you think the average percentage of the population walking around with goals is right now? It's very, very, it's got to be low.
Oh, I bet it's very low. Yeah.
But it's so important. And for me in my life, like it's been crucial, and not just, hey, I want to lose 5 pounds, or I want to bench press this amount. It's just, no, you gotta, you got to set some definitive parameters around it. And you gotta, that's why 75 hard is so good. Cause it's just like, it's spelled out for you. Here are all the tasks. Here's the duration. You got to do it. If you fail, you go back to day one. Okay. Those are some hard, fast parameters. It's not just, hey, I'm going to work on my discipline.
Yeah.
You know, well, great. Working on your discipline's a great goal. How are you going to get there? Be specific about it.
I love listening to Andy talk about 75 hard because he's like, my inbox is always filled up with a bunch of questions. Does this count? Does that count? Does this count? He's like, if you have to write me an email asking if it counts, it doesn't.
It doesn't count.
All right. The answer is no. When I say drink a gallon of water, that means drink a gallon of water.
Yeah, not a
gallon of Mio or Milo.
Of lemonade that you made with water.
Or he said he had someone ask him, if I stand next to my window and keep it open during a workout, does that count as outdoors? He's like, oh shit.
For a while there, he was walking outside and doing his monologue thing that he does on Instagram, and he's like, and then he'd stop and he'd look and he goes, "Does this count?" Like after, like that's the way he closed out every monologue. Does this workout count?
That's funny, man. One more thing on Antarctica, and then we can move on. But we're in talks. We're in communication with the ALE, which is the Antarctic Logistics and Expedition Center, about going through the process of what we need to do to get the permit and be able to fly in there, use their facility, all that stuff. But this is we want to do the climb unguided. Because Sheely, my buddy that's a mountaineer, he's worked high mountain rescue on Denali and all over Rainier and stuff. He's very competent working on and work guiding trips on glacier. But if there's anyone out there that's listening that has any contacts in the mountaineering world or knows anyone that climbs in Antarctica or has went through that process, hit me up because that's how the world works. You know, this person knows this person who knows that person, and now they can assist you. So Greg Anderson podcast at Gmail. Hit me up if you have any pointers on that. It'd be greatly appreciated. Nice. All right. I want to hear about the new business now. This is the third time I've tried to bring it up.
Yeah. So I been doing all these like mental health exercises, these goals, like challenging myself daily. And I realized that it was a couple years ago. I was just sort of, I knew that one of the things that was the most troubling was just, I felt like passion was slipping out of my career. And, I was like, dude, so my career is built by me. I am a sole proprietor. I'm doing what I know best, which is building homes. I, am my own boss. I make good money. Like you go down the line, like on paper, everything's awesome. And for some reason, I'm losing my joy for it. Mm-hmm. So I was doing a lot of these mental health exercises to stay fit in the off time where I wasn't at work. And it was, whether it was COVID or it was this or that, you just like, it's been a rough couple of years to be a builder.
Yeah.
And not that, we've been busy. It's been, light the world on fire kind of stuff. Great. Awesome. But nobody's happy. Subcontractors are pissed. You've got product availability issues. You've got that's causing problems in scheduling and sequencing, and you've got pricing increases, and you've got labor shortage. It's a very fast-growing county that I live in. That's a small community. A lot of vacation homes, a lot of retirees kind of coming over, but it's still a small town with a limited labor pool. And so you've got like kind of three big bullet points of things that were just dragging everybody's enthusiasm right in the gutter as builders and in the entire industry. And I found myself doing a lot of these mental health exercises because I was struggling with passion and like, okay, that was a rough day at work. I'm going to jump in the sauna. I'm going to correct this thing. And I got to a point where so it was a couple of years ago, I told one of my buddies, I go, hey, here's the deal. Keep me accountable, man. I'm done in 2 years. In my industry, you can't hard stop. You've got to, like, as soon as somebody sits down in my conference room and says, hey, we're interested in you building us a home, I don't hand that person keys till 18 to 24 months later.
Okay, so you got a lot of moving parts that are
Yeah, and so there's no real
bunch of projects that are halfway done or whatever.
Yeah, so I might be halfway done with this one when I sit down with the next one, or I might be halfway done with this one as I'm putting a foundation in for the next one, and it gets really cloudy. You get to a point where you're like, okay, in 2 years I'm going to be done. Well, that actually means that I have to stop
bidding, or
I have to stop saying yes to people in 6 or 8 months.
Yeah.
And at that time, I didn't have a transition plan. And so I kept saying yes. It's just like, okay, I'm just going to keep going. I don't know. I know I committed to being done, but I don't know what
you don't have the right exit strategy.
I don't have the right exit strategy. And it's not like I can just give somebody a 2-week notice. And so I did not do a very good job of formulating that transition plan or the exit strategy. And it started to wear on me. And then this last year, where all those things that I said were problematic in the industry, they really got exacerbated this last year with supply chain stuff,
price of lumber and
nightmare, crazy stuff. Yeah, like just the cost of when you sit down and you give somebody a budget and you look them in the eye across the conference room table and you have to reconcile in your own mind if you would do that. Like, no, man, I wouldn't do this. This is stupid. This is way too much money. Then you know you got a problem, right?
Yeah.
And so if you don't believe in what you're selling, then there's a breakdown. And so it was problem after problem, and things would ramp up, and work would just be crappy, and sequencing was all jacked up. Like, we're putting cabinets in a house that doesn't have a friggin' roof on it yet, and just like stupid stuff where you're just like, man, we should not be doing this. But you kind of had to based on the way the world was working in the moment. And one morning, it just kind of hit a tipping point, like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I honestly can't even remember what it was, but I friggin' just teed off. I was in my office with my wife, and I went into one of those things where you just like take one giant deep breath, and then you just start going, and you just start spewing every curse word and this and that, and you're pacing back and forth in your office, and Jamie's just like wide-eyed looking at me like, what is he doing? And I stopped, and I just looked at her, and I go, we are done. We're done right now. And she's like, well, wait, what does that mean? I don't know what that means, but I'm telling you right now that we are done without a plan moving forward. And so what I did was there are 2 jobs that I have in the cooker that were like, I just morally could not tell those folks, I'm not building your project. One was a project that got pushed off from last year, and another one was a design build. I'm responsible for the design. We're already through projects or product selection, like super nice couple.
You can't pass that to someone else.
And you just can't, like, I actually thought about it, and then I was like, man, no, I gotta do this. And so I have half the workload, and that'll give me an income, and it'll give me half the workload, hopefully give me enough time to figure out what's next. And
well, there you go. Exit strategy.
Yeah. And so, but it's funny because there's a weird dichotomy with what I'm talking about. There's, hey, you talk a big game about putting something hard in your path, and you just quit, you pussy. So there's part of my head that's saying that. But at the same time, I'm looking at this going, I do all this mental health exercise. I put all this crazy stuff in my way, and I'm doing it for one reason. Why am I'm not, something's wrong with my life because I have to keep fighting this thing. And I'm doing these things so that like I can manufacture joy and passion. And I realized like, dude, everything about my life is really good. I got a great marriage, love my kids. We get to do incredible family time, like the adventures, like you go down the list, like,
Yeah.
I got it made. Why am I not happy? The only thing going on that I'm bummed about is my job.
Well, and I would say this to people that say, "Oh, you're just going to quit." Like, being on the grind is a necessity for some portion of your life, right? But I think it's important to recognize that there's seasons to your life. And whatever that season was that served you previously, being a builder, it may have passed. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think people get fixated on, hey, if this was what was working for me at this season, then that's what's going to continue working for me for the next season. And I'm not just talking about employment. I'm, even like maybe your marriage, your relationships, your friends, your career, your hobbies. Like, if you need to change those things in order for your life to move in a positive trajectory, sometimes leaving a marriage is the best thing for you. Sometimes leaving a job is the best thing for you. And what it does is it puts you in a position to where now the next season of your life will allow you to explore and experience whatever it is that you need to explore and experience.
Yeah.
And I feel like you arriving at that point in your career as a home builder, because how long did you do it for?
That's all I know, man.
I mean,
literally since before I graduated from college. I graduated from college with a construction management degree, and I had already been working for a contractor prior to that. So it's all I know.
And so you've done this for a long time. You've done it at the highest level. It's rewarded you. You've done some amazing stuff. You've created things for people that, I mean, I'm sure that, fuck, how many houses have you built? You know what I mean? Like, you've made your mark. And if there's a part of you that feels like it's time to move on, dude, it goes back to what we said. Listen to that intuition, And here's the other thing I tell people too, like, because I have a lot of police officers that write me feeling this about the career of law enforcement, is that, you know what, it's just, there's something off about it. It doesn't bring me joy anymore. I want to try something else. Go try something else. Yeah. Develop that exit strategy that you're talking about. And guess what? You can go back to that too. You know what I mean? You walk away from this and you decide, and then you realize, like, oh, maybe it wasn't that bad. It did provide me with whatever I needed, or whatever the conclusion that you draw. It's not like because you're walking away and trying something new that now you're pigeonholed and that's it,
Right.
Like, your life is whatever you make it moving forward.
Yeah. So the there was two lines of thinking when I made that decision. One was what I said, like, hey, you talk a big game about putting difficult things in your path and you're just going to quit. Or you talk a big game about putting difficult things in your path.
So you just quit. Why
don't you reinvent yourself in your mid-40s? Why don't you start over? And that was the thought process that I went forward with, not even thinking that, oh, I just quit. When things got hard, I quit. That doesn't jive with what I preach. Because what I had done is, in my mind, I had said, okay, I talk a big game. Let's do the biggest thing that I know in my life of radical stuff that you can put in front of you to overcome. The biggest thing I can think of right now is to take the career that I personally built, the company that I personally built, all of that notoriety, all of that identity that's wrapped up in one thing, and put it in a drawer, close the drawer, and start completely fresh. And to me, that was what trumped everything. Like that, I didn't quit because it got hard and I just was like, okay, I'm going to walk away because it's difficult. No. I want to know what I'm capable of. I want to know if at 46 years old, I can completely start from scratch in something. Like, I'm very curious. You talk about being curious if I can go another 2 minutes in the sauna.
Yeah.
I'm curious if I can kill it in something else, completely out of what I know to be true, which is pretty much everything, because all I know is the building industry.
Yeah, but you also know how to win. You know what I mean? And I think if you have that in you.
That's my question that I have for me, though, is do you?
Yeah,
it hasn't,
prove
it
it's
hasn't
easy
been
to sit.
tested.
Yeah, it's easy to sit here and say it.
Yeah.
Well, and you can't say it hasn't been tested because you've proven in life that you know how to win when it comes to your fitness, when it comes to your marriage, when it comes to your previous business.
Yeah.
When you put your mind to something and you put the right energy into it, you succeed at things. You've shown that time and time again. But yeah, here's another opportunity to challenge that and prove it.
Yeah.
And show yourself exactly what you need to know about yourself.
And so I say that, like going forward, Jamie, we took a couple of days to process the fact that I had just blasted it out into the universe that I was done, and without a plan. And we do morning walks together ever since I did 75 hard.
You've maintained the walks
every single morning?
Man,
I didn't go this morning because I woke up in Western Washington.
and it was a monsoon.
It was insane. I looked out the window. I'm like, good Lord, I love living in Eastern Washington.
Now I was thinking about when we wrap this podcast up, doing a couple hours of work out on the new property.
Yeah.
And I saw that and I was like, nope, this is going to be a mud pit out there today.
Right. But no, so about a third of the way through 75 hard, I was getting up during 75 hard. I got up and put my 20-pound vest on, did a 45-minute walk, and set my watch alarm to every 5 minutes. I had to drop down and do 20 push-ups. And
that was every morning.
Every single morning.
Okay.
So about a third of the way through, my wife, who admittedly is not a morning person,
her and I have talked about not being morning people together. We're on the same team.
She just said one day, wake me up tomorrow, would you? I want to do it with you. Like, what? Jamie, is that you? And so...
And what time were you waking up to do this?
Well, I'd been up for a while doing other 75 hard tasks at this point. Like, I just realized that if I'm going to be a good dad and a good husband through 75 hard,
you got to knock that shit out early.
I got to do half of it before 7 a.m.
Damn, dude.
Yeah. And so I was getting up at 4:30. I was getting my reading done. I was drinking a half gallon of water before 7 a.m. And I would do that outside workout by going on a walk with a weighted vest and doing push-ups. And so she started going with me, and I'd wake her up at 5:45.
Okay.
And so by the time we got out the doors, usually about 6, back at 6:45, 6:50, and my work day usually starts at 7, and guys are rolling in looking for direction or whatever. And so, kind of all just fit in. So we started doing that and have continued that. Like, that's one of the things that I took from 75 hard that I don't think I'm ever giving up on is a morning walk. And so we began our morning walks. We're now all of the sudden very focused on what in the world are we going to do with our lives. And I just got down to the point where I was like, hey, babe, I just have 2 boxes I want to check. 2. That's all. I don't have a laundry list. I want to provide value to other people's lives. I want to be super passionate about it. And when it comes down to it, I was doing that for a long time as a home builder, providing value for somebody. And I was passionate about it. And I lost one of the check boxes that I needed, and the whole thing fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just realized that, like, whatever it is moving forward, that's all. I just need 2 things. I want to bring value to other people's lives, because when you bring value to other people's lives, your life gets a tremendous amount of value. So call it selfishness.
We have to be selfish.
But I get a ton of satisfaction from helping people. You've seen the Youngquist family operate, and like we have a nonprofit organization that builds homes for people in Mexico. Like, there's just a lot of satisfaction that comes from helping other people. And so whatever career I choose has got to bring a tremendous amount of value to people, and I've just got to have passion for it. I got to be able to wake up every morning and be super stoked about whatever it is I'm going to do. And so we just basically leaned into those 2 things. And I know you're going to ask me what it is, but I feel like I want to tell the general public, but I have to be careful because I'm talking to a specific franchise about some things, and I need to make sure that all gets solidified literally next week.
Got it.
And
okay.
So I can't say too much, but
Well, we can say you're moving into like the wellness industry.
Totally. And after listening to me speak for the last, several minutes, you kind of get the sense like, oh, that makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
You just that's where you need to be. You need to be helping other people overcome some challenges. You need to help people feel better about their life. You need to help people stay healthy. And that's where we're going to end up. I don't know exactly what it looks like yet. I'm pretty sure I know what it looks like. But even what I'm pretty sure about, I think I might even take it one step further with some things. But one of the things that COVID's done, or the last 2 years, whatever you want to call it, has made me really take a deep dive into some things like just wellness stuff, but like what's going on in our environment? Why is my son autistic? Why is the autism rate through the roof? Why is what's in the air that we're breathing? What's in the food that's packaged up in different types of plastic and stuff? What's that doing to us? What's all this processed food doing? And 75 hard, I did nothing but whole foods. And dude, I was operating at a completely different level. No alcohol, no junk. I'd have a cup of black coffee in the morning, but it was just water and just whole foods. And that combined with exercising.
Dude, you're leveling up is what you're doing.
People were telling me to chill out. They were like, whoa, settle down, bro. Because I was just like, for the first, I think it was like day 3, I just was like going a million miles an hour. My brain's just like, and Jamie was like, whoa, what's going on here? Settle down. And I leveled out through 75 hard, and I learned how to kind of harness that and just think more clearly. But it was radical how much things shifted when you began to clean things up. And so for me, through the last couple of years, especially real recently, I've just been fascinated with not only our environment and things that we maybe can't control, but choices that people have made that have gotten themselves into trouble, whether it's pharmaceuticals or it's just bad choices or whatever. And I'm fascinated with this alternative method of detoxing and getting your health back. And it doesn't, I'm not a physical trainer. I'm not a physical therapist. I want to explore avenues that are different, like the sauna, like the cold therapy. I've dabbled a little bit with some red light stuff. I've been dabbling with some IV stuff and some cryogenic, both whole body cryo and isolated cryo. And some of it I've gone, that might be more placebo than anything. And some of it I've gone, whoa, that had a substantial impact. Lean into that. And so I've found that, like, never in a million years would I thought I'd be in the health and wellness space, especially for a career. But I'm fascinated by it. And I'm fascinated by some of the stuff that's just like, I feel like the last 2 years and COVID and politics and all these things have peeled the veil off of a lot of things.
Yeah,
and we've been
for
able,
sure.
like all of humanity has been able to see some things, whether people could handle what they saw or they chose to stay in a comatose state. That's happening.
Yeah.
But if you're fascinated by it, if your mind is open, if you're a critical thinker, and you've really seen the veil come off of some of the stuff that we've seen over the last couple of years, it's super fascinating. And it's like, man, seeing myself experience health and wellness through some alternative methods has been incredible. I want that for other people.
And bro, I'm telling you, when you give that to other people and you show them a path that maybe they haven't walked before, and they take that step, it's one of the most rewarding things that you can give to somebody else.
Yeah.
And, like you just said, like that reward feels good inside. So does that make you selfish or self-serving? Well, to an extent, that's fine though, because it goes back to what we were saying. You got to be good in your own house first. Yeah. So you got to make sure that what you're doing is creating a happiness inside of you. And then what that's going to do is it's going to help you provide that to other people and create a happiness inside of them. And like with our Guns and Geese program, in its inception, we wanted to teach people fundamentals of marksmanship and fundamentals of grappling. And we talked about it. We developed a curriculum. We set the whole course up on paper. And what we are finding is the biggest benefit of people attending that course by spending 3 days with a group of people that want to better themselves. It doesn't matter who you are when you show up. You could be in phenomenal shape or you could be grossly overweight. The person to the right and to the left of you that is sharing this experience with you raised their hand and they said, for the next 3 days, I'm going to try and become a better version of myself.
Yeah.
So when you have a bunch of people that are doing that together, what we're seeing is friendships are being forged, accountability is being implemented, and now everybody stays in touch. We have a closed social media page for people that have graduated the course. It's the only way that you can be part of it. It is filled with conversations back and forth of all of the alumni keeping each other accountable. This is what I'm eating now. This is how many pounds I'm down. This is how many times I've trained this week. And you start to see like, oh, providing something that enriches people's lives on a continuous trajectory. It's not, hey, they came down here for 3 days, we got their money and they're gone. It's no, we're setting a path and watching people maintain that. I'm telling you, it's more rewarding than anything I've ever done in law enforcement or the military. And like, I've never been in a profession where I created something. That's, you know what I mean? Like you got to create, and there's something powerful to that.
Yeah.
So seeing like what this new mission is doing, I'm telling you, man, it's rewarding in a way that I never felt before.
I heard that in your voice. So on the way over here yesterday, I listened to the podcast, the monologue that you did right after the last Guns and Geese, and I was like, this is rad, because that's who I like. I'm wired as the emotional dude that I am. Like I put a ton of stock in relationship, and like if we're friends, like we're not going to get together and talk about sports and the weather. We're going to talk about meaningful stuff. I remember that one time I hadn't talked to you for a long time, and you called me and I was literally on the side of a mountain in a snowstorm. And I sat there, my fingers froze off. And we talked. When I hung up, we were exactly at an hour, and we like spent the first 30 seconds catching up. And then like 59 and a half minutes, like talking about all the crazy stuff that we were doing to better ourselves. And I was stoked when I heard you talking at that level about the camaraderie.
Yeah.
About how even, it wasn't like the end of day 3, everybody was giving hugs out and stuff. It was after day 1.
Yeah.
Like there was a almost immediate realization that this is my tribe for the next 3 days. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to be vulnerable. There were tears around the fire. You think about a thing that you go to where you're focused on guns and fighting each other. Do you expect a bunch of dudes to be crying around the fire?
No, exactly.
But that's what happens, and that's providing value, and it's providing a care that people are they neglect that stuff in their life, and they don't have those people to talk to, and that deep-seated stuff that they want to process in their lives, and it's so important. And I, not that my next career path is going to be super relational in that regard, but
what could be though.
What you've done is you've thrown a rock into a pond with Guns and Geese, and the ripple effect goes in every direction, and the waves get increasingly spread out as they go out. I just bashed the camera.
That's okay.
Okay.
You're talking, so it'll be on you for that portion.
Yeah. So what you've done is thrown a rock into the pond, and now you get the satisfaction of seeing what those waves are doing.
Yeah. And I'll say this too, because watching a program, like you said, that's based on shooting and fighting, affecting people in the way that it is, we're kicking the idea around of doing like wellness retreats on the new property. Because think about that. You could come out there and have some saunas and some cold plunges and some extremely healthy, nutrient-dense foods, and have the campfires and sit on the beach and have those conversations and kind of have like a little 3-day event that encompasses both like your physical body, but then also like growing spiritually and developing camaraderie with people, I think it could be really powerful.
I think you just started a nudist colony.
Hey, clothing optional. No, I follow a page called Sacred Sons, but and this is based towards men in masculine energy, which I actually really enjoy the programs that are split with both masculine and feminine energy. We had 1/3 females last class.
Right.
I think that actually adds value to it.
Sure.
But regardless, like everybody does their thing, right? So these guys go out and they do exactly what I'm talking about. Different physical activities, different like bonding, like team bonding experiences and stuff. But they do clothing optional, right?
Right.
And some of them are naked. And like the comments are like, what the hell is like, why is there half of the dudes out there talking around the bonfire sitting there completely naked? And they responded and they said, because nakedness is the ultimate vulnerability.
Oh, 100%.
And I was sitting there reading it thinking, there's no way I'd sit at a campfire with all my friends completely naked. And that is exactly true though, because that's so uncomfortable. So maybe that is what you need.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe they're onto something,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's funny. So I guess that's my goal, is to throw a rock in a pond.
Yeah.
And say, hey, the ripple effect from anything positive you can deposit in somebody's life, you don't often know about, but as a 46-year-old man, I am aware that it happens.
Yeah.
Like I've had people come back to me years after some sort of impact that I've had on their life, and they share some testimony about what they went and did with that. You're like, bro, if you never would have come and told me, I would never have known that the little thing that I deposited in your life was huge for you, and it impacted countless more people. And what did they go do with what you deposited in them? And so
very few people understand the power that we possess as human beings. And I always say it like, your words have power, your actions have power. And part of what has made me continue this podcast and enjoy doing this show is inevitably I'm going to get emails from somebody that listened to this conversation and it touched them in a way that inspired them to do something better about themselves. And dude, my favorite messages that I get aren't from individuals, it's from individual spouses.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had
100%.
wives write me and be like, hey, my husband's a fan of your show. You talk about training and jujitsu or eating clean foods. So he committed to 3 months of eating good foods and training jujitsu. And our marriage has done a 180. I'm the happiest I've ever been. We're good with each other. We have positive conversations now, and like on and on and on. All because 2 men decided to drink a cup of coffee, sit in a room, and share some thoughts.
Right.
That's all we're doing right now.
Have a conversation.
And have a conversation.
Yeah.
And if you do this, inevitably, someone somewhere is going to benefit from it. That's powerful, man.
Yeah.
You know?
And you could go 2 years with no feedback whatsoever and get that one email.
Yeah.
And just be like, now you're pumped to do
For
like,
sure.
the next 2 years. Like, okay, I'm getting after it. One email. It's like golf. you can hit, golf sucks. Let's just face it, right? Like it's hard and it's miserable, and most of your shots are crappy, and you hit one good shot and you're like, oh yeah, I'm coming back next week.
I remember, like, I played golf a lot growing up because my grandpa loved it. And that was like his thing, take me golfing with him. And he wanted me to be on the tour one day, you know, but I was never very good. But always golfing with grandpa. And there was one day that I hit like this monster drive all the way on the green. And it wasn't a hole in one, but it was right next to the hole. Uh-huh. And then I putted it in on one. And I was like, oh, this is why people golf. This is why. Because every once in a while,
yeah,
this happens and you feel fucking awesome.
Right. Well, and that's just it. Like, you can get 100 crappy emails and messages like, oh, you suck, Anderson.
Yeah.
And then you can get one email from a wife that goes, hey, the impact that you've had from just having conversations with people has changed my whole life. And you're like, it erases all 100 stupid comments from
For
other
sure.
people.
And, like Joe Rogan, he is the godfather of podcasting, and he's the gold standard. And he says all the time on his show, anyone that's thinking about starting a podcast, start a podcast. The more podcasts that are out there, the better. The more conversations that are happening, the better. It's a mindset of abundance, not a mindset of scarcity.
Sure.
And so I always tell people, if this is something that you have any inclination in doing, just know sitting down and sharing ideas with you for the last 2 hours, it's worth my time.
Yeah.
You could take the cameras out of this room and the microphones, and this would have been a rewarding experience,
Sure.
right? But how often do you find yourself sitting down with a friend face to face and sharing ideas for 2 hours? We don't do it very often anymore.
Right.
So the podcast alone, I would continue this podcast even if we got 0 downloads and I had 0 sponsorships, because I enjoy being able to bond with people like this.
Yeah.
And it fills a void. Communication is a very tribal need that I think people are neglecting now. And we neglect it partially because of just the dynamics of our world. Also our phones, like communicating through Instagram or text messages. It's cool. It's convenient, but you don't get what this is.
Right.
You don't get that feel of sitting around a fire and getting to know someone or hearing their perspectives about things that are kind of hard or heavy. And so that's why I think this is powerful.
In a million years, I never would have expected that when I was later in life, find tremendous amount of joy in sitting in my car for 2 hours listening to 2 people rap, or in my case last night, listening to you monologue. And I was like, I listened to the whole thing. And at the end, you were talking about some things about like kind of the state of the world. And I'm like, yeah. And Jamie wasn't listening. I had it on, the over the car, and she was kind of doing her own thing, talking with the kids or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And I'm like, it's so funny because you're like, I would have like, listening to music was what I did in the car forever. And I don't know if it's because I'm older or if it's because I'm so fascinated by what's happening in the world around me. But here I am, like there's a handful of podcasts that, like, if give me 30 minutes in the car, I'll opt for that a lot of times.
Well, dude, authentic conversation is meaningful. It's impactful. And since the beginning of time, we would go out and hunt or wage war or forage or do whatever, primitive man did. And then you'd come back and you'd sit around the fire with your tribe and you'd share stuff.
Right.
People don't do that anymore. And so, like, I think that inherent need for conversation is getting filled through podcasting platforms. And dude, that's awesome. I mean, I'm a metalhead. I like music as much as the next guy. But once Joe Rogan burst on the scene, back when I was living in Los Angeles, commuting 3 hours a day,
right.
It's like, I love blasting Pantera as much as the next guy. But when you do it day in and day out, I need something different.
Right.
And then when you started, like, you're learning, you're getting to know people. And that's the bizarre thing about podcasting is, like, the guys that I listen to, they're kind of your friends, and they don't even like.
They don't know.
They don't even know it.
Yeah.
And I've had people come up to me now, being on the other side of it. I had a guy come up to me in Cabela's, and was like, "Dude, Greg, what's up, man?" And like, we had a good conversation. And he even said that. It's like, man, I kind of know
that's
you.
That's how you met Johnny Mac too, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Just walked up to me in a store. He's like, "Hey, Greg, what's up, man?"
Yeah.
And man, it's cool because it's. When you say like that person knows you, they know you. Yeah. And that's powerful. And it's actually like, there's no ice to break. There's already some type of connection here. Yeah. And now I'm getting the opportunity to get to know this person. And it's a fun journey, man.
Yeah. Did you ever anticipate that? Did you ever think that, like I've got a maybe it's small, but it's a burden to bear. Like, people are gonna reach out to me. People are going to come up as complete stranger, and the way you think about Rogan, like you've listened to countless hours of Rogan or Andy Frisella or anybody else that you've listened to, you feel like you know them.
Yeah.
They have no idea who you are. I mean, you and Andy are friends, but did you ever anticipate, like, I'm going to have to put that hat on, like, this person that just approached me as a complete stranger in the store thinks that we're homies. Because they know so much about me.
I've never thought about it necessarily as like how I'll respond or like look at it as a burden. I really just consider it like an opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, because here's the thing. If you're listening to this show and you follow it enough to like be able to spot me at a supermarket, then we're probably on the same team.
Right.
So I look at it as a ability to expand the network. Dude, that actually makes me want to put one thing out here on the podcast. I had a guy stop by my gym. I believe his name was Trevin, something like that. And he stops by the gym and he goes, "Hey man, I'm a fan of the show. Like, been listening to you, blah, blah, blah." Cool guy. And immediately, like, we vibed, right? Come to find out, he does custom rock work, and I need some custom rock work done here pretty quick. And so he gave me his card, and I was like, "Oh, roger that, man. I'll be getting in touch with you." And then I washed the coat when I got home and pulled his card out, and it was just in little tiny pieces. And I was like, no, because I actually vibed with this guy.
Yeah.
So, dude, if you're listening, stop back by the gym and drop another card off because I lost your contact info.
Nice.
No, that's half the fun of this, man. It's half the fun is building a network, interacting with people. And it's human beings, right? So there's a certain percentage of people that are reasonable, and then there's a certain percentage of people that are out of their mind. And it's one thing that Andy Frisella said to me. He's like, "Dude, you have 90,000 followers. That's a football stadium filled to capacity."
With people willing to go and listen to you.
Yeah. But you take 90,000 people, how many of them are out of their damn minds?
Right.
That's just the percentages, And so there are people that you interact with, and now it gets kind of weird. And they like think you're their best friend, and they're emailing you 4 times a day and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, I guess this comes with the territory,
Right. But like I said at the beginning, like authenticity and transparency always win. And I think that's what's so attractive about this platform, this whole podcasting world, is you just get just raw authenticity all the time. I guess it's depending on who you're listening to.
But you'll inevitably be drawn towards the ones that you feel are promoting that.
Yeah, and I'll listen to somebody that I don't agree with if I sense that there's true authenticity coming out of there.
Yeah, of course.
I'd rather listen to them than somebody that take Dan Crenshaw, for example. Like, I align with some of his thought processes when it comes to politics. Something like I don't think I'm getting authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
I think something's off. It's not all adding up, and that's just it. Is I think this platform and this new world of podcasting gives people the opportunity to really, in their gut, feel that they're not being lied to. There's some authenticity, and that's what keeps them coming back. I mean, it's a chore, I guess, unless you live in a place where you sit in traffic all day long to commute. Being committed to a podcast is a big deal. Like, for me, I have short drives. And so I don't always get to listen to the full extent of a podcast. And some of the podcasts that I listen to are 15 to 30 minutes long.
Yeah.
And that's what I can digest in the time it takes me to get to a job site or something. And, but it's, I lost my train of thought, but it's a commitment, but it's also rewarding because you feel like you're getting the real deal.
Well, I think we've just been subjected to sound bites from media for too long to where that authenticity, even if you're a Tucker Carlson fan or Chris Cuomo, whoever it is that you watch, you don't really get to understand who that person is and how media is projected on people, because it's like, hey, what do you think of this? Okay, let's go to cut to commercial. Okay, back to this. And now it's the next story. And it's like, It's not how human beings communicate. So it doesn't feel authentic. It feels off. And that's why I think this long-term format resonates with so many people. Yeah. And I mean, again, Rogan set the standard. He does 3-hour episodes. And I don't care if you're in alignment with that person or not. I don't think someone can be full of shit for 3 hours straight. Like, you start to understand,
not sniff it out,
who they are, and you can get a feel for it, you know? Yeah. So, all right, well, we're at 2 hours and 10 minutes. Is it time to go hit the sauna?
It is. How long does the thing take to warm up?
It takes about an hour, and I think we're coming up on that since I texted. Oh, we are. Look at that.
Nice.
Right at an hour. All right, so we're going to go burn ourselves up. You got anything you want to close with?
Yeah, I do. Put some goals in front of you. I don't care how great life is for you or how crappy life is for you. The only way you're not going to go backwards is if you progress. And staying neutral is almost impossible to do.
Yeah.
Is to just coast. You're either going to digress or you're going to progress. And so put some goals in front of you. Do some challenging things. Put some pain in your path that allows you to grow through adversity. We're about to go microdose adversity for fun. But like, in the back of my mind, I knew all along, like, you and I were probably going to get in the sauna after this. And I'm like, this one thing that you and I have never done together. And I'm like, am I going to be able to hold it with Greg? Like, am I going to be able to pull it off?
Stop it.
But
it's mutual, because I'm wearing the same thing.
So here we are. So I guess the point is, like, go figure out what you're capable of. And when you learn, don't settle. Put more goals in your path and go, okay, I'm capable of that thing. What else am I capable of? And put pain in your path. Put challenges in your path. Do it deliberately. Do it with stuff that you know that you can overcome. I mean, don't, like, go get yourself into a head-on collision with a semi and see if,
yeah.
But, do some things, challenge yourself, and spread that word. Like, like I said, there's too few people walking around with goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's such an easy way to grow and become a better human, is just set something out in front of you and achieve it.
Awesome, man. Perfect place to wrap it up. I appreciate you coming out, and we're going to go sit in 215 degrees.
Thanks.